The birthday party was supposed to be simple. Emma was turning 9, and we'd invited family to our backyard for cake, games and swimming. 20 kids from school plus grandparents, aunts, uncles and cousins. My husband, David, had spent the morning setting up the inflatable water slide while I decorated and prepared food. Emma has type 1 diabetes. She was diagnosed at age 4 and managing it has become second nature to our family. She wears a continuous glucose monitor, carries her insulin pump, and checks her levels before eating. It's not dramatic, it's just life. At 2 o'clock before the cake cutting, Emma pulled out her monitor to check her blood sugar. Standard procedure before consuming carbohydrates. She sat at the picnic table, pressed the button and waited for the reading. My sister, Lindsay, walked over with her wine glass. Still doing all that medical theater, huh? I looked up from lighting the candles. Excuse me. All the beeping devices, the constant checking. It's a bit much for a kid's party, don't you think? Emma's face went red. She was 9 years old and acutely aware when adults discussed her condition as if she wasn't there. She's checking her blood sugar before eating cake, I said evenly. It's necessary. Is it though? Lindsay took a sip of wine. Or is it attention-seeking? My friend's daughter supposedly had diabetes too, and the doctor said she was fine after they stopped enabling the behavior. I felt my chest tighten. Lindsay, Emma has type 1 diabetes. It's an autoimmune disease. She'll have it for life. That's what they tell you. Lindsay shrugged. But I read an article about how these diagnoses are overblown. Kids are resilient. Maybe if you stopped making such a big deal about it. Stop talking. David appeared beside me, his voice low and dangerous. Stop talking right now. Lindsay blinked. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. No, you're saying something ignorant and cruel about our daughter's life-threatening medical condition at her birthday party. My mother rushed over. What's going on? Lindsay was just explaining her theories about Emma's diabetes, David said, each word clipped. Mom looked at Lindsay, then at me. I'm sure she didn't mean anything by it. She's just concerned about Emma, that's all. Concerned. I repeated. She called my daughter's medical management attention-seeking. Well, you do make quite a production of it sometimes, Mom said carefully. All the devices and monitoring. It's a lot for people to watch. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She stood up and ran into the house. David's jaw clenched. He turned to the dessert table, picked up the beautiful 3-tier birthday cake I'd ordered from the bakery, and walked directly to Lindsay. This is your slice, he said. Then he turned and carried the entire cake toward the front of the house. What are you doing? Lindsay demanded. Leaving. And you're leaving too, David called back over his shoulder. Mom, you're also leaving. David, don't be ridiculous, Mom said. We're family. Family doesn't tell a 9-year-old that her life-saving medical treatment is attention-seeking. He disappeared around the side of the house with the cake. I looked at my mother and sister. You need to go. We're not leaving Emma's birthday party, Lindsay said. This is absurd. You just told my daughter that her insulin management is fake. At her birthday party. In front of her friends. My voice was shaking now. Yes, you're leaving. I was trying to help. By suggesting we stop managing her diabetes. She could die, Lindsay. Do you understand that? Without insulin she could go into diabetic ketoacidosis and die. You're being dramatic, Mom said. Lindsay was just expressing concern that maybe the doctors are being overly cautious. Get out of my house. David had returned. Both of you. Now. This is unbelievable, Lindsay said, grabbing her purse. We drive all the way here, bring gifts, and this is how you treat us? You're lucky I'm only asking you to leave, David said. Now go. Mom and Lindsay left, Lindsay complaining loudly the entire way to the car. I watched them drive away, then went inside to find Emma. She was in her room lying on her bed. I sat beside her. I'm sorry, sweetie. Why does Aunt Lindsay hate me? She doesn't hate you. She's just ignorant about your condition. Grandma thinks I'm faking too. No, baby. Grandma just doesn't understand how serious it is. But I knew that wasn't quite true. I'd explained Emma's condition hundreds of times. My family just didn't want to believe it was as serious as it was. They wanted to think positive thoughts and believe everything would magically improve if we just stopped dwelling on it. We rejoined the party 20 minutes later. Emma put on a brave face for her friends. David bought a replacement cake from the grocery store. The kids never knew anything was wrong. That night, after Emma was asleep, David and I sat in the kitchen. "Your sister is toxic," he said. "I know. And your mother enables her." "I know that too." He looked at me. "So what are you going to do about it?" I thought about the beach house, the property I'd inherited from my grandmother 5 years ago. The beautiful 4-bedroom house in Wilmington that my family used constantly. Mom went there twice a month. Lindsay took her family there every school vacation. My brother used it for his anniversary trips. They all assumed it was family property, some kind of shared inheritance. I'd never corrected them. I just let them use the house freely, gave them the access codes, paid the property management fees, and covered the utilities and maintenance. None of them knew the house was solely in my name. That grandma had left it specifically to me in her will, with explicit instructions that I should use it to take care of myself and my immediate family. "I'm going to make a phone call tomorrow," I said. David raised his eyebrows. "To Carolina Coast Property Management." Understanding dawned on his face. The beach house. The beach house. The next morning I called the property management company. "This is Sarah Mitchell. I need to change all access codes for the Wilmington property immediately." "Of course, Mrs. Mitchell. Any particular reason?" "I'm restricting access to immediate family only. Please remove all secondary users from the system." "That would be, let me see, your mother, Patricia, your sister, Lindsay, and your brother, Mark?" "That's correct. Remove all 3. Done. New codes will be active within the hour." "Should I notify them of the change?" "No need. I'll handle communications." "Very good. Will you still want the monthly maintenance and utility billing sent to your account?" "Yes. Everything stays the same on the financial side." I hung up and felt strangely calm. Lindsay called at noon. "Hey, we're heading to the beach house this weekend for fall break. Can you send me the new Wi-Fi password? It's not working." "You won't be going to the beach house this weekend." Silence. "What?" "I've changed the access codes. The property is no longer available to you." "Very funny. Seriously, what's the Wi-Fi password?" "I'm not joking, Lindsay. After yesterday, I've decided you won't have access to the beach house anymore." "You can't do that. It's family property." "Actually, I can because it's my property. Grandma left it to me. Not to the family. To me specifically." More silence. "Then, what are you talking about?" "That's the family beach house." "No, it's my beach house. It has been for 5 years. I've just been letting everyone use it." "But we have plans. We've already bought groceries. The kids are counting on it." "You should have thought about that before you told my daughter that her life-threatening medical condition is attention-seeking." "I didn't say that. You said her diabetes management was medical theater and attention-seeking. At her birthday party." "I was just trying to suggest that maybe you're being overprotective." "Goodbye, Lindsay." I hung up. Mom called 5 minutes later. "Sarah, Lindsay is very upset. She says you're not letting them use the beach house." "That's correct." "Why on earth not?" "Because Lindsay told Emma her insulin management is fake and you defended her." "I did not defend her. I just said she was concerned." "You said I make a production of Emma's medical care. At her birthday party. In front of her." "Well, you do sometimes seem to." "Mom, Emma has type 1 diabetes. She will die without insulin. Managing her blood sugar isn't optional. It's not negotiable. It's not up for family debate." "I understand that, but..." "Do you?" "Because yesterday you suggested that her medical management is excessive." "I just think maybe the doctors are being overly cautious. When I was young..." "When you were young, children with type 1 diabetes often died before adulthood because they didn't have continuous glucose monitors or insulin pumps. Modern management keeps her alive." Mom was quiet for a moment. "So you're punishing us by taking away the beach house?" "I'm not punishing you. I'm setting boundaries. The beach house is mine. Grandma left it to me. I've been generous in sharing it, but that generosity has limits. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you." That hit hard. But I kept my voice steady. "Grandma left the house specifically to me with instructions to take care of my immediate family. I'm following her wishes." "For how long?" "A week. A month." I don't know, Mom. Until I feel confident that my family respects my daughter's medical needs. This is ridiculous. We've had Thanksgiving at the beach house planned for months. Then you'll need to make other arrangements. I hung up. Over the next week, the calls and texts escalated. Lindsay sent paragraphs about how I was ruining her children's fall break. Mark called to complain that he'd already paid for a romantic dinner reservation in Wilmington and couldn't get his deposit back. Mom sent daily messages about how I was tearing the family apart over a misunderstanding. None of them apologized to Emma. 2 weeks later, Lindsay showed up at my house. David answered the door. I need to talk to Sarah. Is it to apologize to Emma? Yes. Can I come in? David let her in. I was in the kitchen making dinner. Lindsay sat at the counter. She looked tired. I'm sorry. For what specifically? For what I said at Emma's party. About her diabetes management. And I shouldn't have called it attention-seeking. Why did you? She was quiet for a long moment. Because I don't understand it. It scares me. All the devices and monitoring and talk about blood sugar and ketones. It's overwhelming. And I guess I wanted it to not be as serious as it is. I put down the knife I was using to chop vegetables. Lindsay, it is that serious. Emma could die if we don't manage her condition. That's not an exaggeration. That's a medical fact. I know. I knew, but I didn't want to know. Tears ran down her face. When you explained the diagnosis 5 years ago, I couldn't process it. I kept thinking that if we all just acted normal, it would somehow not be real. That's not how autoimmune diseases work. I know that now. I've spent the past 2 weeks actually researching type 1 diabetes. Reading about it, understanding what you deal with every single day. She wiped her eyes. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for what I said, and I'm sorry it took losing beach house access to make me take this seriously. That's remarkably honest. Can I talk to Emma? I called Emma downstairs. She appeared cautiously. Emma, I owe you an apology, Lindsay said. What I said at your birthday party was wrong and hurtful and ignorant. Your diabetes is real and managing it isn't attention-seeking. Keeping you alive. And I'm so sorry I made you feel bad about something you can't control. Emma looked at me, then back at Lindsay. Okay. I'd like to learn more about your diabetes if you're willing to tell me. I want to understand. Emma's face brightened slightly. Really? Really? They talked for 20 minutes. Emma showed Lindsay her continuous glucose monitor, explained how her insulin pump worked, and demonstrated how she calculated carbohydrates. Lindsay listened with genuine interest and asked thoughtful questions. After Lindsay left, Emma came to me. Is Aunt Lindsay allowed at the beach house now? Do you want her to be? Emma thought about it. Yeah. She said sorry for real. I called Lindsay that evening. The access codes will be reactivated tomorrow. Thank you. And Sarah? I really am sorry, not just about the beach house. About everything. Mom took longer. She called 3 weeks later. Lindsay told me what she said to Emma. About actually learning about her condition. Okay. I should have done that years ago instead of minimizing it. Yes, you should have. I'm sorry. To you and to Emma. Tell Emma yourself. Mom came over the next day. She brought Emma a book about famous people with type 1 diabetes and spent an hour asking Emma questions about her management routine. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. That Thanksgiving we all went to the beach house together. Mom helped Emma check her blood sugar before the big meal. Lindsay had researched diabetic-friendly recipes and made a special stuffing with precise carb counts labeled. As I watched Emma laugh with her cousins on the beach, David put his arm around me. You did the right thing, he said. I just protected our daughter. By setting boundaries. By demanding respect. That took courage. I leaned into him. The beach house was just leverage. What mattered was them understanding that Emma's health isn't negotiable. And they do now. Because you made them. Later that evening, as the sun set over the ocean, Emma climbed into my lap on the deck. This is the best Thanksgiving, she said. Why is that? Because nobody's being weird about my diabetes. They're just being normal. I kissed the top of her head. That's how it should always be. She snuggled closer. I'm glad we have the beach house, Mom. Me too, sweetie. Me too. And I was, not because of the property itself, but because it had given me the tool I needed to protect my daughter and teach my family what should have been obvious from the start. Emma's life was worth more than their comfort. Her medical needs weren't up for debate. And respect for her condition wasn't optional. It was the price of admission to our lives. The dining room felt tense that evening. My son, Daniel, sat beside me wearing his favorite blue shirt. He was 7 now and his birthday had been 2 days earlier. So about Daniel's birthday party, my sister Jennifer began. My kids came home pretty upset. I looked up from my plate. Upset? They seemed to have fun. Emma said the cake was homemade. Jennifer's voice carried disapproval. She said it looked like something from a baking fail video. Daniel's fork stopped midway to his mouth. He'd spent 3 hours with me in the kitchen, carefully measuring flour and insisting on blue frosting because it was his favorite color. Daniel and I made that cake together, I said quietly. That's sweet, but you could have bought something from a real bakery, Jennifer continued. My kids are used to a certain standard. Mom nodded from across the table. It's important to maintain appearances, especially for children's events. But did the other children enjoy eating it? Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Emma felt embarrassed for Daniel. The frosting was uneven. Daniel was looking down now, his hands folded in his lap, fingers tracing the edge of his napkin. Next time buy a professional cake, Mom added. There's no shame in admitting baking isn't your thing. Daniel, honey, are you ready to go? I said. He nodded without looking up. Already? Jennifer seemed surprised. We haven't had dessert. I bought it from that French patisserie downtown. Thank you for dinner. We should get going. The drive home was quiet. Daniel stared out the window at the passing streetlights. Mom? He said finally as we pulled into our driveway. Was our cake really bad? I turned off the engine and looked at him. Did you have fun making it? Yeah. It was my favorite part of my birthday. Then it was perfect, I said. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. He smiled a little and we went inside. That was Tuesday. By Friday morning my phone was ringing. Hi, this is Jennifer. Do you have a minute? I'm about to head to work. What's up? Listen, Emma's birthday is in 3 weeks and I can't find a venue for catering. The country club is full and so is every other decent place. I thought you might know someone who could help. You want catering recommendations? I've called everywhere. Even that new place on 5th Avenue with the celebrity chef. They're booked solid. I'm desperate. What kind of event are you planning? About 60 people, full dinner service, custom cake, decorated venue. Emma's friends expect a certain level of sophistication. She paused. So, do you know anyone? Actually, I said, I might be able to help. Really? Oh, thank God. Who do you know? Give me your requirements and I'll see what I can do. She listed her needs. Dietary accommodations, themed decorations, premium ingredients, entertainment, a custom cake, coordinated staff. And it has to be at a nice venue. Emma's friends' parents will be there. I'll make some calls and be in touch by Monday. Monday? Can't you call them today? I need to check some things first. I didn't make any calls that day. Instead, I went to work taking the private elevator most people never noticed. My assistant, Sarah, had organized the morning's agenda. Morning, Sarah. Anything urgent? The Hartford wedding was rescheduled and we have 3 new venue inquiries. Can you pull up our booking calendar for the next 6 weeks? Every weekend was blocked with events. Emma's birthday weekend showed a corporate gala at our main venue. The Thompson Gala, I said. Didn't they mention possibly moving it? Yes. They asked about switching to Friday evening. Should I reach out? Please do. Offer them the Friday premium package at the Saturday rate as an incentive. Monday morning came and I let Jennifer call me first. She rang at 8:30, exactly when I expected. So, did you find anyone? No greeting, just straight to business. I did actually. I found a venue that can accommodate everything on your list. Are you serious? Which one? I've literally called every event space in the city. It's called Sinclair Events. They have several locations, including a beautiful garden venue that would be perfect for a children's party. They handle everything in-house: catering, decorations, entertainment, custom cakes. Full service. Silence on the other end. Then, Sinclair Events? I've never heard of them. They're very selective about their clients. Mostly high-end corporate and private events. They don't advertise publicly. And they have availability for Emma's birthday? How did you even get them to talk to you? These exclusive places usually won't even return calls. I have a connection there, I said simply. Would you like me to arrange a consultation? Yes. Absolutely yes. When can we meet? How about tomorrow afternoon? 2 o'clock. She agreed immediately, already talking about what she'd wear and how impressed Mark would be that she'd found such an exclusive venue. I could hear the relief in her voice, mixed with curiosity about how I'd managed to get access to a place she'd never even heard of. The next afternoon I arrived at our main location 30 minutes before Jennifer. The staff knew to expect her and I'd briefed them on exactly how to handle the meeting. I waited in my office, watching through the one-way glass as my sister entered the reception area. Our event coordinator, Marcus, greeted her professionally. I could see Jennifer looking around, taking in the elegant interior, the photos of past events on the walls, the premium finishes throughout the space. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the marble floors gleamed under soft lighting. Fresh flower arrangements sat on every table, and the subtle scent of vanilla and lavender filled the air. I have a 2 o'clock appointment, Jennifer said, her voice carrying a note of impressed surprise. For a consultation about my daughter's birthday party. Of course, Mrs. Peterson. Please have a seat. Can I get you anything while you wait? Water, coffee, espresso, tea? Water would be fine. She sat down on one of the leather chairs, pulling out her phone. Marcus returned with her water in a crystal glass and a portfolio of our services. While you're waiting, feel free to look through our event gallery. We specialize in creating memorable experiences. She was flipping through the portfolio, her eyes widening at the photos of elaborate weddings, corporate galas and milestone celebrations we'd designed, when the door opened again. Jennifer. Mom walked in looking confused. What are you doing here? Mom? What are you doing here? I got a call about catering for the church fundraiser. They recommended this place. Mom looked around. It's beautiful. Much nicer than I expected from a referral. I know, right? I'm here about Emma's birthday. Apparently this place is very exclusive. They were still talking when Marcus approached them again. Ladies, I apologize for the confusion, but it seems there's been a scheduling overlap. The owner is available now if you'd both like to come back together. The owner. Jennifer perked up. We get to meet with the actual owner? Yes. She prefers to personally oversee all major events. This way, please. I watched them follow Marcus down the hall toward my office. Jennifer was whispering excitedly to Mom about how exclusive this must be, how impressed Emma's friends' parents would be when they heard the party was at Sinclair Events. Marcus opened my office door and they walked in. I was standing by the window reviewing some contracts. I turned around as they entered. Good afternoon, I said. Thank you for coming. The color drained from Jennifer's face. Mom's mouth opened but no sound came out. Please have a seat. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. This is, you. Jennifer finally managed. You own this place? Yes. Sinclair Events has been operating for 8 years now. We're the largest private event company in the state. I sat down at my desk. You mentioned you needed catering and a venue for Emma's birthday? Mom found her voice. 8 years. But we thought you were working as an assistant somewhere. I am an assistant, I said calmly. I assist my clients in creating perfect events. I also happen to own the company. Jennifer was staring at the photos on my walls. Awards from the hospitality industry, pictures of me with celebrities and business leaders whose events we'd coordinated, a framed article from a national magazine about women entrepreneurs in the event planning industry. The French patisserie, she said weakly. The one I mentioned at dinner? We supply their event cakes. They handle retail, we handle large orders. They're actually one of our partner vendors. The Country Club? We've been their exclusive catering partner for 3 years. When I heard you were trying to book there, I had them tell you they were full. I wanted to see if you'd call me for help. Jennifer's hands were shaking. The Fifth Avenue restaurant with the celebrity chef? We designed and launched that concept 6 months ago. It's one of our subsidiary ventures. Mom was looking at me like she'd never seen me before. The hotel downtown? We manage all their event services, conference center, ballrooms, wedding packages. Everything. But your house, Jennifer protested. You live in that small house. You drive a 10-year-old car. You make homemade birthday cakes. Yes, I said simply. I do all those things. Because Daniel and I enjoy them. Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. And because the money I don't spend on impressing people goes into growing my business and securing my son's future. Marcus knocked and entered with a tablet. Excuse me, ma'am. The Thompson Gala confirmed their move to Friday. That opens Saturday evening if you want to accept new bookings. Thank you, Marcus. I turned back to Jennifer and Mom. So, Emma's birthday party. Saturday 3 weeks from now. 60 guests. Full service. I can offer you our garden venue, which includes catering, a custom cake, decorations and entertainment. Our standard package for that size runs about $15,000. Jennifer's face went white. $15,000? That's actually 20% off our usual rate. Family discount. I pulled up the contract on my screen. Of course, if you'd prefer to find another vendor, I understand. Though, as you've discovered, most venues are booked. I can't. Jennifer looked at Mom, then back at me. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That I own a successful business? I tried, several times. But every time I mentioned my work, you'd change the subject or make a comment about how I should get a real career. Eventually I stopped trying. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. At dinner, when I said baking wasn't your thing, I personally design custom cakes for Fortune 500 executives and celebrities, I said. Last month I created a wedding cake for a senator. Daniel's birthday cake was homemade because he wanted to help make it. That was more important to me than impressing 7-year-olds with professional fondant work. Jennifer was crying now, mascara running down her face. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I was so awful to you and to Daniel. Yes, you were, I agreed. And now you need my help. I understand if you won't do it, she said, her voice breaking. I wouldn't help me either after what I said. I pulled up the contract and made some notes. The garden venue, 60 guests, premium catering package, custom cake designed by me personally, full decoration service and entertainment. Everything Emma could want for her birthday. I'll waive the venue fee so the total comes to $12,000. You'll still do it? Jennifer looked shocked. After everything? Emma's my niece. She deserves a beautiful birthday party. What she doesn't deserve is to hear her mother make cruel comments about other children. I slid the contract across the desk. But there's a condition. Anything. Daniel gets to help me design Emma's cake. And when it's unveiled at the party, you're going to tell every single one of those 60 guests that your nephew helped create it. You're going to explain that he's learning the art of pastry design from his mother, who runs the most successful event company in the state. Jennifer nodded, tears still streaming. Of course. Yes. Absolutely. And one more thing, I added, looking at both of them. No more comments about my choices. Not my house, not my car, not how I spend my time with my son. If you can't respect my decisions, then we can keep this relationship purely professional. Event planning only. Mom reached across the desk, her hand trembling. We respect you. We always should have. I'm so sorry. I didn't take her hand immediately. I let her sit with that feeling for a moment. The same way Daniel had sat at that dinner table, feeling small and embarrassed about a cake he'd been proud of. Then I took her hand and squeezed it gently. Good, I said. Because family should build each other up, not tear each other down. Especially not in front of children who are watching and learning what love looks like. Jennifer signed the contract with shaking hands. As they were leaving, she turned back at the door. The cake Daniel made, she said quietly. Emma actually told me it tasted better than the fancy ones I usually order. She said it tasted like it was made with love. I didn't want to hear it. That's because it was made with love, I replied. That's the secret ingredient I use in every cake I create for my clients. Turns out it works pretty well. After they left, I sat in my office for a while looking at the photo on my desk. Daniel and me in the kitchen, both covered in flour, laughing at the mess we'd made. It was taken on his birthday, right before we put the cake in the oven. That photo was worth more than all the awards on my wall. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel's school. He'd been chosen for the art showcase. I smiled and replied that I'd be there on opening night, and we'd celebrate afterward with homemade cupcakes. Some things I thought were too important to outsource. The drive home was silent except for the soft sound of my son Daniel's breathing in the back seat. He was 7 years old, small for his age, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and eyes that held more wisdom than any child should carry. His stutter had started 2 years ago after his father left us. The speech therapist said it was stress-related, that it would improve with time and support. My family had never provided that support. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Daniel was staring out the window, his small hands folded in his lap. He wasn't crying anymore, but the damage was done. I had watched my sister Jennifer imitate his stutter across the dinner table, stretching out her words in exaggerated mockery while my parents chuckled into their wine glasses. My mother had even added, "Maybe he just needs to try harder to speak properly." That was the moment I knew we were done. When we got home to our small apartment, Daniel went straight to his room. I heard the door close softly, not slam. He never slammed doors. He was too gentle for that, too afraid of taking up space or causing trouble. It broke my heart. I sat on the couch and pulled out my phone. There were already 3 texts from my mother. "You're being dramatic. Jennifer was just joking. You're teaching Daniel to be too sensitive." I deleted them without responding. The next morning, Daniel came into the kitchen while I was making breakfast. His hair was messy from sleep and he was wearing his favorite dinosaur pajamas. "Mom," he said quietly. "Yes, sweetheart. Are we really not going back?" I knelt down to his level and took his hands. "Not until they understand how to treat you with respect. You deserve better than that, Daniel. You deserve people who celebrate you, not make fun of you." His bottom lip trembled. "But they're family. Family is supposed to make you feel safe," I said. "Not small." He nodded and hugged me tight. Over the next 2 weeks my phone exploded with messages. My mother called it ridiculous that I was punishing the whole family over a joke. My father sent terse texts about me being ungrateful for everything they'd done for us. Jennifer didn't message at all, which somehow hurt more than if she had. But I held firm. What they didn't know, what I had never told them, was that I wasn't the struggling single mother they thought I was. For the past 3 years, while they'd been giving me pitying looks and offering unsolicited advice about getting back on my feet, I had been building something. I had started a small consulting business from home, working late nights after Daniel went to sleep. It began with 1 client, then 2, then 5. Within a year I had hired my first employee. Within 2 years I had an office. Now I had a team of 12 people and contracts with 3 major corporations in the city. The apartment we lived in, the one my family thought I could barely afford, I actually owned. I had bought the entire building 2 years ago as an investment. We lived small by choice, not necessity. I wanted Daniel to grow up understanding the value of things, not entitled to excess. My family assumed I was broke because I let them assume it. It was easier than dealing with their judgment or their sudden interest in my finances. In the 3rd week my mother showed up at my door unannounced. "This has gone on long enough," she said, pushing past me into the apartment. "You need to stop being childish." I closed the door calmly. "I'm not being childish. I'm protecting my son." "From what?" "His family who loves him. From people who think it's acceptable to mock a 7-year-old child for something he can't control." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Jennifer didn't mean anything by it. He was just teasing. You used to tease each other all the time as kids." "I was never cruel to Jennifer," I said quietly. "And this isn't about sibling rivalry. This is about an adult woman mocking a child at a family dinner while other adults laughed." "You're overreacting." "I'm really not." She looked around the apartment, her eyes landing on the second-hand furniture, the small television, the simple decor. I could see the pity in her expression, the judgment. She thought this was all I could manage. "Look," she said, her voice softening into what she probably thought was kindness. "I know things have been hard for you since the divorce. And I know you're doing your best as a single mother. But you can't isolate Daniel from his family just because your feelings got hurt. He needs his grandparents. He needs his aunt. He needs people who won't hurt him." "We weren't hurting him," she insisted. "We were just having fun. You're teaching him to be weak by coddling him like this." Something cold settled in my chest. "I think you should leave now. Don't be ridiculous." "I'm serious." "Leave." He stared at me shocked. "You can't just throw me out." It's my home. I absolutely can. She gathered her purse, her face tight with anger. You're making a mistake. Don't come crying to us when you need help with rent or Daniel's school expenses. We're done enabling this behavior. I almost laughed. Enabling. As if they had ever been supporting us. After she left, I sat down and sent an email to my lawyer. It was time to make some changes to Daniel's care arrangements. I wanted it documented that my family was not to pick him up from school or have unsupervised visits without my explicit written permission. I also updated my will and trust documents, removing them as beneficiaries and guardians. They thought they had power over us because they believed we needed them. They were wrong. A month passed. Daniel's stutter was actually improving. His speech therapist commented on it, said he seemed more relaxed, more confident. At home he laughed more. He played more. He stopped apologizing for taking up space. We started having our own dinner traditions. Every Sunday Daniel would help me cook and we'd eat together at our small kitchen table. He'd tell me about his week, about his friends at school, about the books he was reading. Sometimes he stuttered, sometimes he didn't. It didn't matter. I listened to every word like it was the most important thing I'd ever heard. As it was. Then came Thanksgiving. My mother called 3 days before, her voice tight. I assume you'll be coming to Thanksgiving dinner. It's been over a month. This punishment has lasted long enough. We won't be coming, I said calmly. What do you mean you won't be coming? It's Thanksgiving. It's family. We're spending it elsewhere. With who? You don't have anyone else. I could have told her then. About the friends I'd made through my business, about the community Daniel and I had built outside of our biological family, about the dinner invitation from my business partner and her family, people who had shown Daniel more genuine love and acceptance in 6 months than my family had shown him in 7 years. But I didn't owe her explanations. We'll be fine, I said simply. There was a long silence. Then she said, You're really going to keep Daniel away from his family on Thanksgiving? That's cruel. What's cruel is mocking a child. What's cruel is teaching him that family means accepting mistreatment. I'm teaching him something different. You're teaching him to hold grudges. I'm teaching him boundaries. She hung up. Thanksgiving Day arrived bright and cold. Daniel and I spent the morning baking pies together, his small hands carefully rolling out the dough. He barely stuttered at all. When he did, he just took a breath and continued, not ashamed, not apologetic. Just himself. We went to my business partner's house that afternoon. Her name was Margaret and she had 3 kids of her own, all older than Daniel. They welcomed him immediately, showing him their treehouse, their video games, their collection of comic books. I watched through the window as Daniel laughed, really laughed, running around the backyard with children who didn't care whether his words came out smoothly or not. Margaret stood beside me holding 2 cups of coffee. He's a great kid. He really is. Your family doesn't know what they're missing. I took the coffee she offered. No, they don't. During dinner, Margaret's youngest son asked Daniel about school. Daniel started to answer, stuttered on a word, then kept going. Nobody reacted. Nobody made a face, exchanged glances, or tried to finish his sentences for him. They just listened. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Later that evening, after we'd returned home and Daniel was getting ready for bed, he came into the living room in his pajamas. Mom. Yes, baby. I like Margaret's family. Me too. He climbed onto the couch next to me. Do you think Grandma and Aunt Jennifer will ever say sorry? I pulled him close. I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe. Maybe not. What if they don't? Then we'll be okay anyway. We have each other and we have people who love us the right way. He was quiet for a moment. I'm not as sad anymore. I'm glad. Are you as sad? I thought about it honestly. Was I sad? Disappointed, maybe, grieving the family I'd wished I had rather than the one I actually did. But sad? Oh. No, I said. I'm not sad. I'm proud of us. He hugged me tighter. The texts and calls from my family eventually slowed, then stopped. My mother sent one final message in early December. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. I didn't respond, but I thought about it. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply stopped participating in something that was destroying my son. There's a difference. Party came. Daniel and I decorated our small apartment with lights and put up a modest tree. We made cookies, watched movies, and built a gingerbread house that collapsed halfway through. We laughed about it and built it again, this time with more frosting and less ambition. On party morning, Daniel opened his presents with pure joy. They weren't expensive, but they were thoughtful. Books he'd wanted, art supplies, a dinosaur model kit. He hugged each gift like it was treasure. "This is the best party ever," he said. And watching his face, free from the anxiety that used to cloud it during family gatherings, I believed him. My phone buzzed once. A text from Jennifer. "Party, I guess." I deleted it. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. That evening, as I tucked Daniel into bed, he looked up at me with those serious, wise eyes. "Mom, thank you for leaving that dinner." My throat tightened. "You never have to thank me for protecting you. But I want to. You made me feel be brave." I kissed his forehead. "You're brave. You always have been." As I turned off his light and closed his door, I realized something. My family had spent years making me feel like I was failing, like I was barely holding things together, like I needed them to survive. They'd used my son's struggles against both of us, turned his stutter into a punchline and made him feel less than. But we had survived without them. More than survived. We had thrived. And that was the greatest revenge of all. Not that I was seeking revenge. I was simply choosing peace. I was choosing a life where my son could be himself without apology, where kindness mattered more than blood relation, where family was defined by love and respect rather than obligation and tradition. The new year came quietly. No dramatic revelations, no satisfying confrontations, no moment where my family realized their mistake and came crawling back. Life wasn't a movie. Sometimes people don't learn. Sometimes they don't change. But I had changed. And more importantly, Daniel had changed. He started second grade that January, more confident than I'd ever seen him. His stutter was still there. Probably always would be to some degree, but it didn't define him anymore. He made friends easily. He raised his hand in class. He tried out for the school play. "I'm going to be a tea tree," he told me excitedly after auditions. "That's perfect," I said, and I meant it. One afternoon in late January, I was picking Daniel up from school when I saw my mother's car in the parking lot. She was standing by the fence watching the children come out. When she saw Daniel, she started walking toward him. I moved faster. "Daniel," I called, my voice firm but calm. He looked up and ran to me immediately. I took his hand. My mother stopped a few feet away. "I just wanted to see him." "No," I said simply. "He's my grandson. He's my son. And you haven't earned the right to be in his life." She looked at Daniel, her expression something between sadness and frustration. "Daniel, don't you miss your grandma?" Before I could intervene, Daniel spoke up, his voice clear and steady. "Not really." It wasn't cruel. It wasn't designed to hurt. It was just honest, delivered with the straightforward truthfulness that children possess before they learn to soften reality for adults' feelings. My mother's face crumpled. She looked at me. "You've turned him against us." "No," I said. "I've taught him that he deserves respect. There's a difference." We walked to our car, Daniel's hand secure in mine. As we drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was already pulling out a library book, settling in for the ride home, unbothered. That night, after dinner and homework and bath time, Daniel asked me a question. "Mom, are we happy?" I thought about our small apartment, our simple life, our quiet evenings together. I thought about the absence of criticism, mockery, and walking on eggshells. I thought about the space we'd created for ourselves, just the two of us, where love was gentle and kindness was the default. "Yes," I said. "We really are." He smiled. "And me too." And that was all that mattered. The restaurant was one of those upscale places where the waiters refold your napkin when you go to the bathroom. My sister Diane had chosen it for this family dinner, celebrating her promotion to senior partner at her law firm. She sat at the head of the table, glowing with success. My son Trevor, 25 and perpetually underestimated, had arrived early to coordinate with the staff. He'd arranged the seating, pre-ordered Diane's favorite wine, and prepared a custom dessert with congratulatory messaging. Nobody noticed. "This place is incredible," Diane announced, gesturing at the elegant dining room. "I specifically requested this private room." The coordination it took was exhausting. I glanced at Trevor, who was studying his menu intently. He'd been the one to secure this reservation 3 months ago, when Diane mentioned her promotion was coming. She'd asked him to call the restaurant, then took full credit when the booking came through. My father raised his glass. To Diane, who always rises to every challenge. We all clinked glasses. Trevor's smile was polite, practiced, carefully empty of any expectation. Diane's husband, Mark, leaned back in his chair. You know what separates successful people from everyone else? The ability to handle real responsibility. Complex projects. High stakes. Absolutely, Diane agreed. She looked pointedly at Trevor. Some people just aren't wired for that kind of pressure. My husband, Richard, touched my leg under the table, a warning. I ignored it. Speaking of responsibility, my mother chimed in. Diane managed her wedding planning herself. Every detail. Remember how perfect it was. I remembered how perfect it was. I also remembered Trevor spending 6 months coordinating vendors, managing the budget, negotiating with the venue, handling the guest list crisis, and creating seating charts that satisfied Diane's complicated family politics. It was a beautiful wedding, I said neutrally. Beautiful because I made sure every element was executed flawlessly, Diane said. You can't delegate that kind of thing to just anyone. It requires a specific skill set. Trevor excused himself to the restroom. I watched him go, shoulders slightly hunched, and felt something crack inside my chest. The appetizers arrived. Diane inspected hers critically. The presentation is slightly off. When you're paying premium prices, you expect premium execution. Everything looks wonderful to me, my mother said quickly. That's because you don't have an eye for detail, Diane replied, not unkindly. It's not a criticism, Mom. Some people notice these things, some people don't. It's just how brains work differently. Richard cleared his throat. How's the new associate working out at your firm? Diane lit up. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. She handled this massive case filing last week with zero supervision. That's what I look for. People who can manage complex responsibilities independently. When Trevor returned, Diane was deep into a story about her associate's accomplishments. She barely paused when he sat down. The thing is, Diane continued, real responsibility isn't just about showing up. It's about anticipating problems, managing multiple stakeholders, keeping everything organized under pressure. Most people completely fall apart when faced with that level of complexity. My father nodded sagely. Your mother and I tried to instill that in all our children. Some absorbed it better than others. The implication hung in the air. Diane had absorbed it. I had partially absorbed it. Trevor, by omission, had not. Trevor's very organized, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Oh, I'm sure he is, Diane said in that tone people use when they're being generous. In his own way. But there's a difference between being organized in your personal life and being able to handle serious professional responsibilities. What exactly do you think Trevor does all day? I asked. Diane shrugged. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Something with computers? Tech support. He's a project manager, Richard said quietly. Right, Diane waved her hand dismissively. I'm sure that's important in its own way. But we're talking about real leadership roles. Strategic planning. Managing budgets in the millions. Client relationships. Legal implications. The kind of thing that actually requires serious capability. Trevor was cutting his food into very precise, small pieces. A thing he did when upset but trying not to show it. Your son will never handle real responsibilities, Diane said suddenly, looking directly at me. And I don't mean that cruelly. Some people are just better suited for support roles. There's no shame in that. The table went quiet. Even my mother, who usually rushed to smooth over any conflict, seemed frozen. Trevor set down his fork carefully. It's okay, Mom. But it wasn't okay. I'd never been okay. 25 years of watching my sister casually diminish my son while taking credit for his work, and I'd stayed quiet because that's just how Diane is, and family harmony matters. Interesting perspective, I said, my voice remarkably steady. Especially since you begged him to manage your entire wedding. Diane's mouth actually dropped open. What? Trevor. You begged him to manage your wedding. Remember? March 2 years ago you called our house crying because your wedding planner quit and you had no idea what to do. You literally said, and I quote, I need Trevor. He's the only one who can save this. I never said that. You absolutely said that. I was standing right there. You were panicking because you had 6 weeks until the wedding and no system in place. Mark looked at his wife. Honey, you told me you handled everything yourself. I did handle it, Diane said, but her voice had lost its certainty. I made all the decisions. Trevor did everything else, I continued. He coordinated with 23 vendors. He created the budget tracking that kept you from going $40,000 over budget. He visited the venue 6 times to verify setup. He managed the RSVP database and created the seating chart. He negotiated with the florist when they tried to charge triple for last-minute changes. He found a replacement string quartet when your musicians canceled. He assembled 200 welcome bags the night before because you forgot to arrange it. That's not. He negotiated with the florist when they tried to charge you triple for last-minute changes. He found a replacement string quartet when your original musicians canceled. He personally assembled 200 welcome bags the night before the rehearsal dinner because you forgot to arrange it. My father was staring at me. Is this true? Ask Mark, I said. He was there for some of it. Mark had the grace to look uncomfortable. Trevor did help quite a bit. Help. I felt my voice rising despite my best efforts. He managed the entire operation. Diane showed up to make color choices and approve menus. Trevor did the actual work of coordinating everything. I don't appreciate you rewriting history, Diane said, her lawyer voice coming out. I was very involved in my own wedding. You were involved in the fun parts. Trevor handled all the responsibilities you're now claiming only special people can manage. Dad, please, Diane said, looking at our father. Not now. This is supposed to be a celebration. Actually, my father said slowly, I'd like to hear more about this. Trevor, you coordinated Diane's wedding. Trevor looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. I helped. He did more than help, I said. And this isn't the first time. Remember when Diane got the Hoffman case and needed someone to organize her discovery documents? That was Trevor. Remember when she bought her house and needed help managing the renovation contractors? Trevor. When she launched her home office and needed the technology set up. Trevor spent 3 weekends configuring everything. Those were small things, Diane protested. No, I said firmly. Those were real responsibilities. Complex projects with multiple stakeholders and high stakes. The exact things you just claimed he could never handle. The waiter appeared to clear our appetizer plates. The silence was excruciating. He retreated quickly. I think, my mother said carefully, perhaps we should all take a breath. No, Mom, I said. We shouldn't. Because this happens constantly. Diane dismisses Trevor while relying on him whenever she needs something managed. And we all go along with it. I have never dismissed Trevor, Diane said, but her voice shook slightly. You literally just said he'll never handle real responsibilities. At a dinner he organized. At a restaurant he booked. With a custom dessert he arranged. While sitting at a table he chose the seating chart for. Richard leaned over. Love, maybe we should. Did you arrange this dinner? My father interrupted, looking at Trevor. Trevor nodded reluctantly. All of it? The reservation, the private room, all the details. Diane asked me to, Trevor said quietly. She was busy with the promotion stuff. She sent me her preferences and I handled the logistics. Diane's face went from flushed to pale. I didn't realize you'd done quite so much. You never realize, I said. That's the problem. You ask him to handle things, he handles them perfectly, and then you tell everyone he's not capable. I don't do that. You do it constantly. At Christmas, you told Aunt Marie that Trevor struggles with complex tasks while you were literally holding the custom photo album he'd designed and printed for you. At Mom's birthday, you announced he wasn't detail-oriented after he'd spent 6 weeks planning that surprise party. My mother shifted uncomfortably. The party was lovely. Trevor planned every element of that party, I told her. The venue, the catering, the guest list, coordinating everyone's schedules, arranging the photo slideshow. Diane brought a cake. A very nice cake, Diane said weakly. You're missing the point, I said. The point is that you consistently underestimate Trevor while depending on his abilities. And then you announce to the family that he'll never handle real responsibilities. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Diane was silent for a long moment. The entrees arrived. Nobody moved to eat them. I think, Trevor said quietly, maybe I should go. No, my father said firmly. Stay. We all looked at him in surprise. Dad rarely intervened in family conflicts. Diane, he said, his voice serious, your mother and I raised you better than this. Dad, you were just putting your nephew down in front of the entire family. Again, apparently. And using his own work to celebrate yourself while claiming he's not capable of that same work. He looked at Trevor. I owe you an apology. We all do. It's fine, Trevor said automatically. It's not fine, Dad said. You've been managing complex projects for this family for years and we've treated it like nothing. Like you're doing the bare minimum instead of going above and beyond constantly. I don't do it for recognition, Trevor said. Which is exactly why you deserve some, Dad replied. He looked at Diane. You need to apologize. Genuinely. Diane's eyes were shining with tears. I'm sorry, Trevor. I really am. I didn't realize I was doing that. You did realize, I said quietly. You just didn't care because it was convenient not to. That's harsh, my mother protested. But accurate, Richard said, surprising everyone. I've watched this for years. Trevor does incredible work. Diane takes credit or dismisses it. It needed to be said. Diane wiped her eyes with her napkin. I do appreciate everything you do, Trevor. I guess I assumed you knew that. How would he know that when you constantly tell him and everyone else that he's not capable? I asked. I never meant it that way. I was just, she trailed off. Just what? I don't know. Maybe I was threatened? You're right that I rely on him. Maybe it was easier to pretend he was just being helpful rather than admit that he's better at this than I am. The admission hung in the air. Trevor looked at his aunt with something like pity. You're really good at your job, Aunt Diane. You don't have to put me down to prove that. I know, she said softly. I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. The dinner limped forward after that. The conversation was stilted, uncomfortable. Diane kept trying to make things normal again, but the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. When the custom dessert came out, beautifully presented with congratulatory script in chocolate, Diane actually thanked Trevor out loud. It was a small thing, but it mattered. In the parking lot afterward, my father pulled Trevor aside. I watched them talk, saw Dad's hand on Trevor's shoulder. What did Grandpa say? I asked when Trevor returned to our car. He offered me a consulting job managing projects for his company. Paid position, not a family favor. That's wonderful, Richard said. Yeah, Trevor smiled, a real smile. He said I clearly have skills that should be properly utilized and compensated. On the drive home, Trevor was quiet for a long time. Then he said, thanks, Mom, for saying something. Finally. I should have said it years ago, I replied. I'm sorry I didn't. Better late than never, I guess. The next day Diane called. I've been thinking about last night. And I owe Trevor more than just an apology. I'd like to hire him as a consultant for my firm. We're terrible at project management and he's obviously brilliant at it. Actual salary, not a family discount. You should ask him directly, I said. I will. But I wanted to make sure you knew I was serious about changing how I treat him. After we hung up, I thought about years of staying quiet, smoothing things over, protecting Diane's feelings at Trevor's expense. Family harmony had seemed important. But maybe some harmony wasn't worth maintaining if it came at the cost of someone's dignity. Trevor could decide for himself whether to work with Diane. Whether to forgive her completely. Whether to trust that things would really be different. But at least now everyone knew the truth. At least now his capabilities were acknowledged rather than dismissed. It wasn't a perfect resolution. Diane's attitudes wouldn't change overnight. The family dynamics were still complicated. But it was a start. And sometimes a start is enough. That evening, Trevor showed me an email from Diane formally offering him a consulting contract with an impressive salary. What do you think? I think, I said carefully, that you should do whatever feels right to you. No obligation to forgive, no pressure to accept. He read the email again. She did acknowledge specific projects I've managed. Using actual details. That's new. It is. Maybe people can change, he said thoughtfully. Maybe, I agreed. But they don't change unless someone makes them see the truth first. He smiled at me. Thanks for being that someone. Always, I said. even when it takes me too long to find the courage. Trevor eventually accepted Diane's consulting offer, with clear boundaries and professional expectations. Whether their relationship fully healed I couldn't say. But at least it started from a place of honesty rather than polite fiction. And at least Trevor knew that someone in the family was willing to defend him, even when it made dinner uncomfortable. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to stay quiet anymore, even if it ruins the meal. The pastel blue decorations hung from every corner of the country club ballroom. My sister Jennifer sat in the center, one hand on her pregnant belly, accepting gifts from relatives and friends. I'd arrived with my son Marcus, 23 years old and quiet as always, carrying the gift we'd carefully selected. "Oh, look who decided to show up," Jennifer announced loudly as we approached. Several heads turned. My sister and her, well, Marcus. Marcus set the gift on the table with the others. "Congratulations, Aunt Jennifer. I'm happy for you." "How sweet," she said, her voice dripping with something that wasn't quite warmth. "Though I have to say I'm surprised you came. Baby showers aren't really your scene, are they?" I felt the familiar tension building in my shoulders. "We wouldn't miss it." "Of course not," Jennifer's friend Amanda chimed in from the next table. "Family is family, right?" The gift opening began shortly after. Jennifer made a show of each present, gushing over tiny clothes and stuffed animals. When she reached ours, a comprehensive collection of educational toys we'd researched for weeks, she held up each item with a puzzled expression. "These are interesting choices," she said, examining a set of sensory blocks. "Very practical. Not exactly fun but practical. They're designed for early childhood development," Marcus explained quietly. "The textures help with—" "Oh, Marcus knows all about child development now," Jennifer interrupted and several people laughed. "Did you take one online course or something?" Marcus's jaw tightened slightly but he said nothing. My mother leaned over from her seat. "Jennifer, that's enough." "What?" "I'm just making conversation." Jennifer set the toys aside and reached for the next gift. "It's adorable that Marcus thinks he understands children. Really it is." I watched my son's face remain carefully neutral, the same expression he wore when trying not to show hurt. He'd perfected that look over years of family gatherings. The shower continued with games and cake. During the diaper-changing relay race, Jennifer made sure everyone knew Marcus wasn't participating. "We need people who actually know what they're doing," she announced cheerfully. "No offense, Marcus, but this requires a certain touch." "None taken," Marcus replied, staying in his seat. I started to stand but my husband David put a hand on my arm. "Not worth it," he whispered. Later, as people mingled around the dessert table, I overheard Jennifer talking to a group of her friends. "The thing about Marcus is he's just not natural with kids," she was saying. "Some people have it, some don't. He definitely doesn't." "That's not true," I said, stepping into their circle. "Marcus volunteers at Little Steps Daycare every week. He's been doing it for 2 years. Jennifer waved a dismissive hand. "Volunteering isn't the same as actually being good with children. I'm sure he means well, but come on. You've seen him at family events. He barely interacts with my kids." "Because you don't let him," I said, my voice rising slightly. "I don't let him because I know my children," Jennifer shot back. "They need someone energetic, someone who gets down on their level. Marcus just sits there." Amanda nodded sympathetically. "Some people are just better with adults." Marcus had been standing near the punch bowl, close enough to hear everything. His face had gone carefully blank again. "Marcus is great with children," I insisted. "Your kids specifically ask for him when they need help with homework. That's different. That's academic. I'm talking about actual childcare, bonding, that sort of thing." Jennifer patted her belly. "When this little one arrives, I'll need people around who really understand children. People with natural ability." "Jennifer." "It's fine, Mom," Marcus said quietly, though his hands were clenched at his sides. "She's entitled to her opinion." "See? Even he knows I'm right," Jennifer said, smiling at her friends. The afternoon dragged on. Every few minutes brought a new comment, a new dig disguised as concern or observation. When Marcus tried to pick up Jennifer's 4-year-old daughter, Emma, after she fell and scraped her knee, Jennifer swooped in immediately. "I've got her, Marcus. Thanks anyway." "He was just trying to help," I said. I know, and it's sweet, but Emma needs someone who knows how to handle these situations. Jennifer carried her daughter away, leaving Marcus standing there with his hands empty. David pulled me aside. We should probably go soon. Before you say something you'll regret. Before I say something I'll regret? What about everything she's been saying? I know, but you know how these family things go. It's better to just what? Let her keep humiliating our son. Marcus appeared beside us. Can we go? Please. The defeat in his voice broke something in me. But before I could respond, Jennifer's voice rang out across the room. Everyone. Time for one more game before we wrap up. I need all the parents to gather around. She explained the rules of a trivia game about child rearing, questions about developmental milestones, first aid, nutrition. Things any involved parent would know. Marcus, you should sit this one out, Jennifer said sweetly. This is really for people with hands-on experience. He has hands-on experience, I said firmly. He volunteers. At a daycare, yes, you mentioned that. But that's not the same as real parenting experience, is it? The room had gone quiet, everyone watching the exchange. Your son will never be good with children, Jennifer said, and though her tone was light, the words landed like stones. He's too rigid, too awkward. Children need warmth and spontaneity. They need someone who gets them. She looked around at the assembled guests. I mean, look at him. Can you honestly imagine Marcus changing diapers at 2 a.m? Soothing a crying baby? Playing peekaboo? Marcus stood there, his face pale. A few people laughed uncomfortably. That's enough, I said, but my voice came out weak. I'm not trying to be mean, Jennifer continued. I'm being honest. Some people are cut out for working with children and some aren't. Marcus is smart, sure, but that's not the same thing. My kids need babysitters who actually connect with them, not someone who's just going through the motions. Weird, I heard myself say, my voice suddenly steady and cold. That's weird, since your kids literally beg for him to babysit them. Jennifer's face changed. What? Em and Jake. They ask for Uncle Marcus specifically. Remember last month when you called me, desperate for a sitter because your regular one canceled? Emma cried when you said Marcus couldn't do it. That's not. And the month before that, when Jake had nightmares and wouldn't sleep. You called Marcus at 11 at night because Jake would only calm down talking to him on the phone. Jennifer's friends were watching her now, confused. My mother touched my arm. Not here, she whispered urgently. Please, not here. But something had snapped. Years of watching my son diminished, dismissed, treated as less than. Years of keeping quiet for the sake of family peace. Do you want to know why Emma asks for Marcus? I continued, my voice carrying across the silent room. Because he's the only one who listens when she talks about her imaginary friend. He built her a whole cardboard castle for that friend to live in. He spent 6 hours on it. I didn't know that, Jennifer said quietly. And Jake? Marcus taught him to read before kindergarten. Not because you asked, but because Jake was frustrated and Marcus noticed. He went out and bought special books with his own money. He spent every Saturday morning for 3 months working with him. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. Mom, stop. No, I said, shaking him off gently. I'm not stopping. Not this time. I turned back to Jennifer, whose pregnant glow had faded to an uncomfortable flush. You want to talk about who's good with children? Marcus volunteers 20 hours a week at Little Steps. Not because it looks good on a resume. Not because he's trying to prove something. Because he loves it. The director told me they've never had a volunteer so dedicated. Parents request him specifically for their kids. I'm sure that's lovely, but... Last week, a little boy with autism who hadn't spoken in months said his first word to Marcus. The parents cried. They sent Marcus a card thanking him for his patience and understanding. The room was absolutely silent now. Your son will never be good with children, I repeated Jennifer's words back to her. That's what you said. In front of all these people. About a young man who gives up his weekends to help children learn and grow. Who studies child psychology in his spare time because he wants to be better at connecting with them. Who has a waiting list of parents wanting him to tutor their kids. Jennifer's hand trembled slightly on her water glass. I didn't mean. You did mean it. You've always meant it. Every family gathering, every holiday, every chance you get to make him feel small. I felt tears burning in my eyes but refused to let them fall. He's too polite to defend himself, so he just takes it. But I'm done watching. This is my baby shower, Jennifer said, her voice breaking slightly. You're ruining my baby shower. No, I said quietly. You did that when you decided to humiliate my son in front of everyone. Amanda stood up. Maybe we should all just calm down and... Sit down, Amanda, I said, not taking my eyes off Jennifer. You don't get to play peacemaker after you laughed along with every cruel thing she said. My mother tried again. Please, can we just... Mom, you know what Marcus does every Sunday? He calls Emma and Jake and does video chat story time with them. Their favorite part of the week. Did you know that, Jennifer? Did you know your kids count down the days until Uncle Marcus calls? Jennifer's eyes were filling with tears now. Stop. Why? Because it's uncomfortable? Because you're realizing that maybe you've been wrong about him this whole time. Marcus tugged at my arm more insistently. Mom, please. I just want to go. I looked at my son, saw the mixture of embarrassment and relief on his face, and felt my anger deflate slightly. You're right, I said to him, then looked back at Jennifer. We're leaving. Enjoy your shower. As we walked toward the exit, the room remained silent. No one said goodbye. No one tried to stop us. In the parking lot, Marcus let out a long breath. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I said firmly. I did. She's going to be even worse now. Let her. I'm done pretending her behavior is acceptable for the sake of family harmony. David unlocked the car. Well, that was certainly something. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Was that really necessary? I typed back, yes. Another buzz. This time from Jennifer. I think you owe me an apology. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, I think you owe Marcus about 23 years worth of apologies. But I'm not holding my breath. As we drove away, Marcus was quiet in the back seat. Finally he spoke. Thanks, Mom. Always, I said, meeting his eyes in the rearview mirror. Always. My phone kept buzzing with messages from family members. I turned it off. Whatever fallout was coming, it was worth it. I'd finally stopped protecting my sister's feelings and started protecting my son's dignity. It was long overdue. The next morning, my phone had 37 missed calls and twice as many text messages. Most were from family members expressing shock, disappointment, or anger at my outburst. A few, surprisingly, were supportive. My cousin texted, about time someone said something. Marcus is a sweetheart. Jennifer's message simply said, you've made family gatherings impossible now. I hope you're happy. I replied, you made them impossible for Marcus years ago. I just finally noticed. She didn't respond. 3 days later, Emma called our house phone. Can Uncle Marcus come over? Mommy says no, but I miss him. My heart broke a little. Let me talk to your mommy, sweetie. But Jennifer had already taken the phone. Stop turning my children against me. I'm not doing anything, I said calmly. Emma called here herself. Because you put ideas in her head at the shower. I told the truth. If that's uncomfortable for you, maybe examine why. She hung up. A week passed. Then the family group chat that I'd been removed from apparently discussed nothing but my terrible behavior and poor Marcus, caught in the middle of his mother's dramatics. Then my mother called. Jennifer wants to talk. Then she can call me herself. She's struggling. The shower really upset her. Good, I said and meant it. That's not very charitable. Neither is spending years belittling your nephew. My mother sighed. She wants to apologize to Marcus. Will you let her? That's Marcus's decision, not mine. I asked him that evening. He thought about it for a long time. Okay, he finally said. But only if she means it. No more fake apologies just to keep the peace. Deal. Jennifer came over the following Sunday. She looked tired, her pregnancy making her movements slow and careful. Marcus sat across from her at our kitchen table. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I've been terrible to you. For a long time. Marcus nodded, waiting. I think, she paused, choosing her words carefully. I think I was jealous. Of how easy it seems for you. How much my kids love you. It's not easy, Marcus said. I work at it. A lot. I know. I see that now. She wiped her eyes. Emma won't stop talking about the castle you built. I never knew about that. You never asked. The simple statement hung in the air. You're right, Jennifer said. I never asked. I just assumed. And I was wrong. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't complete absolution. But it was a start. As Jennifer left, she turned back. When the baby comes, would you want to help sometimes? If you're not too busy. Marcus smiled, genuine and warm. I'd like that. After she drove away, I asked Marcus how he felt. Tired, he admitted. But good, I think. Maybe things can be different now. Maybe, I agreed. My phone buzzed one more time. Jennifer, thank you for finally telling me the truth. Even if it hurt. I looked at my son, thought about all the years of hurt he'd quietly endured and typed back. He deserved someone to defend him. I should have done it sooner. Her response came quickly, better late than never. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was better late than never. But as I watched Marcus head upstairs, humming softly to himself, I made a silent promise. Never again would I stay quiet when someone diminished him. Never again would I choose false peace over his dignity. Family harmony was important. But protecting my son was more important. Always had been. I just finally figured that out.